playing jungle is tracking the enemy jungle, responding to pressure, and knowing when to stay in lanes and when not to. Jungle is one of the... it's not as free of a role as you think. It doesn't have all of the access to the map because a lot of what you need to do as a jungler is respond to pressure in specific areas at specific times. And if you don't do that, then you're doing your team a severe disservice. And if you're clearing optimally, you're forced to be at certain parts of the map at certain times. So you don't really have access to the whole map. You're on a path in a lane. It's just working differently. So where you're standing right now is kind of interesting. There's no reason to be doing this. I might have warded up here, but standing in their bushes, this is unnecessary. You can get picked here, and one of my rants is actually whenever people don't watch for invades, they're not doing everything in their power to win, which means that they are not trying to climb, which means what are you doing here? But this is kind of just weird positioning. Um, Ping her back. Ping her back. If you're one of my also philosophies is if you think you deserve to climb, that means you think you're better than the people you play with, which means you should be making the decisions. So ping. If you're not vocal with pings, get vocal with pings. Say fall back. Ping people off Baron if you don't want to do it. So start using your pings. This isn't going to tell you anything. Another thing I rant about is wards. You have a limited resource pool with your wards. This has a cooldown, and there's other ways of gathering the information that's going to be here. And it's super simple, and I'll show you what it is. So watching this on the minimap, yeah, they're not here yet. He's already here, and they show up to lane late. You know for a fact, because of this, Evelynn started on her blue. And if you were going to get your knowledge from this ward is a wasted resource. Well, honestly, at this point in the game, you don't need to put one down at all. Because Evelynn's not the type of jungler who's going to be looking to invade you. A typical Evelynn playstyle is to do a full clear and skip Krugs and then look for something either mid or top. Or even just recall. So I don't think you're going to get invaded. And I would be saving my ward for part of your lane gank. So if you came mid, for example, because Fizz was diving the Diana, you could ward over here with your ward and catch the Evelynn when she was rotating to this. So that way you know not to chase under turret because you're going to have an Evelynn to clean it up. Or it's that type of situation. But if you deny yourself that resource because of this ward, you can't secure a play later. It's just a resource management thing. And if you're against a Lee Sin and you try and do this, well, a Lee Sin might invade you. So alternatively, you could stick a ward over this wall, like right here. I wouldn't necessarily do this, but you could. And yeah, that's the idea. If you're also tracking an enemy jungler, which is really easy to track in a jungler based off of the clock. For the first 3 minutes of the game, the jungler is clearing up. At 3 to 4 minutes, they're looking to gank mid or top. And if you don't see the jungler by 4.5 minutes, they're bot lane. And if you know how to track the enemy jungler, you know where it's safe for you to gank, but also you know where you might need to counter gank. So if you're trying to think about, oh, I need to be top lane right now, well, you could go top lane, but the Evelynn likely is going to be here too. If you could go mid lane, but the Evelynn is likely to be here too. You're level 3 gank, right? So in this situation, I think that you would only be able to counter gank for the Diana or go for the gank on the Cho'Gath. Which one would you really want? I think I would be going for the Cho'Gath because... Well, while part of that makes sense, the easiest way you can provide help for your laners is by warding for them. And you don't have to counter gank, but if you walked up here with your time, you place a ward over here, all of a sudden you counter ganked for her, And now you walk mid, or over here you take Scuttle, and then you go top, and you didn't waste any time. Because you did something productive for this lane, you got some vision over in river, and you still got your gank off top. So that's how you can give yourself a counter gank and a gank. Oh, no, no, no. It's, in fact, I pink ward for my laners. Whenever I play Elise, I start a pink ward, my jungle item, and one potion, and I pink ward this bush. Because no, most of the time they walk through here, and it catches them out. Sometimes I even ward this. It's very a very good idea to ward for your laners. But it's only good if you expect the jungler to be there. And as I said, if you, in this situation, it would be a counter gank on mid, and if you're not looking for that, which is totally fine, just put a ward. And this is that kind of wasted resource. It might still be on cooldown. It might actually just come up at 3 minutes, depending upon how early you warded that. But that's a really, really useful thing to do for your team. And if you don't buy pink wards, and your pink ward should go here. As a jungler, it should go here. Because that's going to serve you all the way through Baron and after Baron. It's going to protect your mid laner, and it's going to protect this gank route. Stop after the flash. No. Yeah. So you misjudge your damage. That's a separate problem. You don't know how much damage your character does, and you go in while he still has all of his crowd control. He did not blow anything except for flash. You gave him double buffs, and he's going to be able to sustain that back now. That's a big problem. That's a big, yeah. And now another thing this does is now you don't have your red buff or your blue buff on you, which means you can't gank bottom, which it needs, if you can tell. Because if you were at 4 minutes, like what I said, 4.5 minutes, your bot lane, see this timer? You could have ganked this. Your Rakan could have set you up. You had red buff. They don't have Ignite, but I don't think you'd actually get anything. But it's just an idea. Um, that's that's not you cannot do that. Well, something that I didn't do with you is at the start of a game, I normally go over win conditions. But this game kind of looked trolly from Champion Select, so I didn't really go over it. Their team is like half assassins, so it's weird. Um, well, there's ways you can avoid that, and that is wave management and rotations. You don't need to ever go in a 5v5. Trust me, you can always avoid 5v5s. And you can always force a fight where it's a 5v4, where your team has 5 and they have 4. All it is wave management. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get into it this game, but it really depends on what you do because I'm going to mostly be critiquing your play instead of telling you an overall strategy because strategies and builds and stuff like that, they're very, very situation dependent. And if I tell you that you need to split push bottom and all you do is split push bottom to try and climb, you're not going to win games. It's situation dependent, and I will explain if a situation arises, but it's something that you're going to need to start to piece together yourself. But yeah, okay, so I'll go a little bit into win conditions here. Their team is 110% going to split push. It's definitely going to split push. And now you need to be thinking about what is their split push going to be? Is it going to be a Zed or is it going to be magic damage? And are you going to be the one on your team split pushing against them? Are you going to be the front line for your team? Honestly, you're going to either need to be able to draw someone off to the side and kill them while your team can take a fight without you, or you're going to need to be able to front line for your team. Those are your two real options here. And if I was you, I'd be getting your Maw as like a first item. You have 4 AP champions, unless Ari's building AD, which is she? Yeah, she's building AD for some reason. She still does a lot of magic damage, and I guess they have a lot of true damage too. Anyways, they got 2 magic damage assassins, and if you build full AD, they're going to have cooldowns for you, like what you said. You should acknowledge this. Um, so what's your win condition, and what should you be trying to do? Well, if you get the Vayne ahead, which was a good idea to gank this lane, but you fed this lane instead of helping it. Um, Vayne could be able to split push, and she could take down the Cho'Gath at all stages of the game. She could probably even take down someone else if they came to gank her, depending upon if it was a 1v1 still. Vayne's very good at dueling. If you gank for the Jinx, I wouldn't really be trying to do that this game, because they have so many assassins that I kind of just would assume that with your team's limited peel, she's going to die. But getting your Diana fed is also a good idea. So as a Master Yi, I would be focusing on mid and top. My entire... Hmm? You need to be adapting. It's something that changes based off of win conditions. Win conditions are something that you just need to start predicting what the enemy team wants to do. When you look at this comp, what does it want to do? A Zed is not the type of champion that team fights. That's just period. Fizz isn't the type of champion that team fights. Evelynn flanks, so she's not going to be standing there for a team fight. She's going to be on her own for part of this. It's obvious what their team wants to do. Now, what does your team want to do is a bit different. You need to be thinking about how your team can either respond to what their team wants to do. So in my case, when I was saying get the Vayne fed or get the Diana fed, or you can be looking towards your team's win conditions in a different way. So let's say if you were playing Sejuani, then all of a sudden you could get the Jinx fed because you could make it so that way one of their assassins died immediately with your ults, and you could peel off to the next person and probably kill them too. But because you're playing a Master Yi in this situation, your win condition is different. It's not bad, it's just different. There aren't really bad team comps. There are just different win conditions, and some are harder to play out. Because, as I said, this is split push reliant, and you know the surefire way to lose a split push? It's to fall behind in lane. If you fall behind 2 levels in lane, you're not going to be able to 1v1. And if you can't 1v1, you got a 2v1. All of a sudden, you're not split pushing, you're grouping. So, what you would be doing this game is playing towards your 2 champions that can deal with their win condition. Split push. Pick. Out split push. Out pick. And your other option is if you build a little bit of tank, which I'd probably build Maw and like Frozen Mallet or something like that. That was my like 2 defensive items. The rest is fine to do whatever you want with. But that gives you a lot of health. It gives you a good amount of magic resist, and that deals with true damage. It deals with magic damage. But I'm not going to go too much into builds this game. I just don't like talking about builds because, as I said, it's so situation dependent that I'm going to be responding to what happens this game more than anything else. You don't need to meditate to top off health. That's wasting time and mana. And you see, you're clear, right? You're not watching your camp spawn timers. You could have ganked mid there. You would have definitely gotten something off mid. And you had nothing to do. If your idea was you clear up to something and you gank, that's not what you do. You wander your jungle. You have no camps. He's half health. Diana can't necessarily set you up, but she can bait. And since you're in bronze, that'll probably work. So you're just wandering. This is wasted time. And this is another wasted resource. Why would you ward your blue buff now? You're right in front of it, and it's not spawning for another minute. Is it not spawning for another minute? Probably another minute. Your first buff isn't even up yet. There's no reason you need this ward. It's not going to see anything. Lee's not going to be here. Evelynn's not going to be here. And if she does come here, she's high. She has no reason to be here. Instead, if you're going to gank top, ward this Tribrush, and then walk around. But I would not be ganking top here. Mm-hmm. My philosophy early game is if you have smite, you should be jungling. If you don't have smite, you should be ganking. And that's not a perfect philosophy. It's not, because a lot of times you use smite to gank. But that timer is about right. So don't necessarily think of it as I need to be farming, I have smite. But every 60 seconds, you should be looking at the map to what you should gank, because the game right now is so snowbally with early game that if you don't gank early, you're probably going to lose a lot more than you win. And money early game, it's like an economic principle. If you have money now, it's worth a lot more than money later. This is why you get paid interest. That's why investing is such a good idea. Because you get more money later, right? But you just fed kills to this lane. And do you know what that does? That gives him an XP lead. It gives him a gold lead. It gives him pressure. All three of those things mean that he's going to get more minions. He's not going to be forced off of the wave. He's going to have a better recall timer, which means he's going to have even more XP, which means he's going to hit 6 first, which means he's going to be able to get this tower first, which means everyone gets gold. It snowballs. So try and look for ganks more often. And again, Master Yi doesn't have extremely good ganks, but you can definitely still gank. You just need to be looking for the right lanes. Diana, if she baited the Fizz to go in on her, 100% you could get this. Because she does have a slow for you. Cho'Gath, after blowing his flash, I would have walked away and just kind of like cleared Scuttle and then come back to gank him again. After you blow flash, just wait for them to walk back up. I will guarantee 80% of the time people walk back up for some reason. And you just kill them then. They teleport back to lane even. They base and they teleport back to lane. Then you come and gank them and they don't have TP to get back. That's worth 2 kills, essentially. Alright, so back to just following what you're doing. Evelynn hasn't ganked yet either, but her level 6 ganks are actually a lot better than yours. Your Scuttle, did you ping that? That was a good ping. I would be pinging Danger actually on the Diana. This isn't a bad invade, honestly. That's a great ward. This is a bad invade. So whenever you're invading like this, you need to make sure your team can respond to you. Do you see down here? Where is their bot lane? Where is Fizz? Where is Diana? Your team is not in the position to help you, and their bot lane looks like it could be coming up to you. Now, honestly, they're probably at base. See, they are. But what if they had a ward right here? And what if, while you were invading, they were walking up to you because they just pushed in the wave? This is a really risky invade because you're not responding to where your team is. Jungle relies on synergy with your laners. Because if you're trying to take a risky play like this, do you know who's going to be first to respond if all things else are the same? Well, of course, fucking their team, because their team's closer. So either you need to make sure you can kill them before the team can come, and then probably trade 1 for 1 because you will die for it, or you will not get caught. Or your team is the one that's coming. And you did not know that your team was coming. You did not know your damage, because up here, obviously you didn't know your damage. This is a really bad invade now. The ward was good for spotting out Evelynn for when she was doing blue buff, but staying for this camp is risky. Especially since you smite it early. It could have just been a simple like smite steal, and then all of a sudden you would have lost that. But yeah, that's really, really risky. A second thing, you did base earlier and you... Oh, no, you died. That's why. Never mind. You should be getting your red buff. Okay. Well... Remember what I said about that 1 for 1? That's basically what happened here, and you luck out. You should not be looking back into this. Why are you looking back into this? Not necessary. You already got the blue buff. That's all you need. And you don't have a reason to shop right now either. You should be clearing your jungle up. The only thing you're going to get is like shoes and complete a jungle item. That's not worth backing for. Yeah. Okay, so you didn't even have enough for that. Um, and okay, what actually where are you trying to clear to? Are you trying to clear to bottom? Are you trying to get dragon? Then why didn't you get your red buff? If you're trying to clear to top, then start at the bottom. This is you should never start with wolves. All of your camps are up, and you decide to recall here, and then you decide to go to wolves. This is terrible pathing. You really, really do need to work on your pathing. Um, your invade was risky, but it paid off. Um, I I still don't like it. Don't like this. Don't like the recall. Don't like this pathing. And you don't know your damage. So how are you to know that you could even bait the Fizz? The Fizz could have turned on you. And if you don't have red buff, Master Yi can't gank. See? Oh, you never mind that. You guys won that. What? Because the Diana roam too? Okay. Alright, you had numbers. Alright, that's what happened. Alright, alright. That was a great Diana roam. And this... So, this is an example of what I was saying at the very start, where I was saying you can always set up for 4v5s, or where the enemy has 4 and you have 5. This is an example of that. And this is how a bad play can turn into a good play, because it was honestly, that was a terrible gank. But the Diana made it a good gank. So I just wasn't watching the minimap for her. I didn't realize she was roaming up. She must have seen the Fizz that you just walk next to. And I have no idea what this is. I have this is just my friend, this is not okay. And look, you're see on the minimap, your red buff got stolen because Evelyn's in your jungle now. Now that little advantage you got over here, aside from the kill, of course, you gave up. This is optimal clearing. And you should have also died here, but the Diana made it okay. Now, yeah, you need to stay for this. So, here's the little bit I was mentioning where your problem is probably objectives. If you don't get anything after kills, then you're not getting anything at all. And let me explain this. There's only one objective that matters in this game. Only one objective. And it's this. It's your Nexus. Only one objective that matters. And you need a row of turrets, a single row of turrets to get there. Everything else that happens in the game is setup. Everything else is setup. And that is from the simplest ward to a kill. If you never get anything after you get a kill, then you're simply not getting anything of value. A kill, in my mind, is worth the same as a ward. Because what is the point of a kill? It gives you more gold, which gives you the ability to take objectives. Yeah, that's what it does. And you know what a ward does? It lets you take the smart fight where you know it's going to have a Diana there, which means you get the kills later, even though you didn't have the kills earlier, which lets you take the objectives. You had a disadvantage here because you fed the Cho'Gath earlier, right? And you managed to come to this and get an objective, in theory. I don't know if you actually end up getting this turret. You don't. But you could have probably done a lot of damage to it. Especially if you had got on it right away. You probably get it to like 70%. Yeah, 70% of its damage. But watching the Cho'Gath's recall, it was a good idea to go back here. That is fine. And her dying for a little bit of overstay, that's on her. Okay, she didn't die. And then she overstayed. And then she got a kill. Okay. Yeah, and then you check your red buff and it's gone. Imagine that. As I said, pathing. You got to work on that. And then you look for a gank without red buff, and do you have your ult? You do. You do? You do. This is an okay time to gank. But again, ping! Ping, 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 ping. Ping on my way. Let them know right away that you're going in for a gank. Because your team's not going to see the mini-map. If you were saying that's why you don't ward for your team, you better fucking ping for your team because they're going to hear a fucking sound effect. Doesn't matter if they're not looking, they will hear. That was a pretty good gank, but you should have pinged. And I know the only reason you ganked here, ironically, is because the Evelynn took your red buff. Um, and your philosophy is, I have nothing to clear, so I gank, right? But you see how easy that gank was? You could do this. So I also, especially important for me whenever I talk with junglers, in my opinion, Dragon is not important. It's not important at all. Dragon, if I was to assign a score to something, I would assign Dragon at 1 point, kills at 1 point, wards at 1 point, towers at like 10 points, and the Nexus at like 1,000. Baron's probably like 20 points. Dragon's not valuable because Dragon gives you the potential to take an objective later. What's the point of Earth Dragon? It gives you damage to turrets. What does that do? It gives you an objective later. Ocean Dragon gives you health regen, which lets you stay in lane longer, or mana regen, which lets you hit the turret, which gives you an objective later. Air Dragon gives you rotations, which means that you can go from this turret to this turret where you have 3 people and they have 2, and you can get this objective. Fire Dragon lets you win the fight, even though you haven't shopped yet, which gets you the objective. Dragons are not important. They should not be something on your radar, but it is the equivalent of a kill or the equivalent of a very good ward that will set up for a fight. So, it is something that if it's free, hell yes, take it. Hell yes, you go for this gank that is 2 free kills, 2 points. Don't actually take my score thing seriously. It's just to give you my bias, but it's not actually accurate. But if it's free, yeah, take the dragon. But if your choice is dragon or a turret, always take the turret. If their team is on dragon and you think you can steal it and you're going to die for it, just let them have dragon. It's not worth stealing if you are going to die. Because not only does that mean you gave them a point for a point, but now they have a 5v4 on any of your turrets that they choose, which lets them get an objective later. What's the purpose of dragons? To get an objective later. If you're giving up an objective to give yourself the possibility of an objective, it's not worth it. Dragons are not worth it. They're worth it if they're free, hell yes. But never die for them. Never die for them. Always take turrets over dragon. There are some cases where I would say go for it. Like Fire Dragon's a lot better on like Zed or Jhin or something like that. Ocean Dragon's a lot better if you have an Anivia. But I'm giving you the broad scope of things. I don't know what you're doing here at all. Are you grouping? This is a really awkward rotation. It's not bad, but it's awkward. So, remember your philosophy was if there was no camps to clear, you gank? If you're walking up this way, right, why don't you just take Scuttle? That makes your time useful. Sets up vision control for where the Evelynn probably could rotate, even though it's an Evelynn and it wouldn't see her. And then you wouldn't have had to have sat here and wasted time. This is wasted time, and it cues them into what you're trying to do. So it's basically giving them an extra little second or two to set up to defend this turret. And if they have something that can, like, I don't know. I don't even honestly know what they could have done on this team comp to counter you right away. But they could have. Their Xerath support could have started wave clearing. Yeah. But you guys managed to get the turret first, which is great. First turret's really important. Main TP top. That's something that you don't see every day. Oh, maybe you do in bronze, but... So, okay. Now that you've opened up mid, right? Your Diana looks like she's going to want to roam, and the Diana has ganked just as many times as you have. Keep that in mind. As this, I think mid has the most access to the map because once you push out the wave, you can choose to stay here, go into the jungle, go top lane, go bot lane, go wherever the fuck you want. You're not pigeonholed to be on a certain side of the map while you're farming. Because if you're clearing optimally, you should be on a certain side of the map. They're always at the center of the map. So Diana roaming here, she shouldn't necessarily be ganking more than you, but she does have more access. You should be trying to play with her and play towards her pick potential. Because what happens after you get a kill? You look for an objective. Do you know what Master Yi is really fucking good at? Oh yeah, you do. It's killing these things. If you're there whenever they kill this Cho'Gath, the turret's dead. So you should be playing towards where you're putting down this control, this map pressure. Always be playing towards where this Diana is roaming, and you would recognize that off of, well, for starters, she's fed. You're fed. And you know what you need to do to win the game? A row of towers and this baby. Okay. Herald, by the way, I think Herald's like 5 points. It's not as good as a guaranteed turret, but it's better than Dragon, and it is worth dying for. Because it's almost a guaranteed turret if you use it at the right time, and you should learn how to use it. So, for example, right here, if you magically had Herald in this alternate universe, you guarantee probably 2 turrets, because I cheated and saw Evelynn over here. But also you have people on this wave. Cho'Gath cannot wave clear all of this, and in fact you could dive him probably with these people here if he stayed. So you probably get 2 turrets off of that in this magical world where you somehow have Herald. You realistically wouldn't have Herald here at any shape or form. You really shouldn't have taken it this early. But it's an example of when it would be a good time to use it, so I'm pointing it out. Taking this camp is an okay idea, but you know what's even better to be doing right here? You see this ward? You know what's going to fuck up this play? Right here. Evelynn. If you have a ward on this red buff, which you can do over this wall, you'll spot out the Evelynn. Because she's probably going to do red before she ganks. Probably. Not necessarily true, but probably. And if it wasn't an Evelynn, it catches probably 80% of rotations from mid lane. So, you need to use this. Remember how I was saying you were using, like, wasting resources earlier? Well, what you need to be doing is thinking about what their team is trying to do, or rather, should be doing. Because if they're not clearing optimally, then you're probably going to win anyways. If they're not rotating optimally, you're probably going to win anyways. But if they are doing what they should be doing to win, you'll have caught them out if you prepared. How do you know that this is what they want to do? Well, you have 3 people top because you've already shown top. I think you did. Oh, you didn't show top because you didn't stop on this ward. Oh, but you used this. If you use this, that shows on the whole map. You don't need vision to see this. So you have been spotted up here. Yeah, you don't need vision to see this. It shows on the whole map. So you know what the smart play would be for them to do? Of course, send someone to help defend this turret that Cho'Gath can't defend himself. Fizz is coming up, and Evelynn. You could have put out a ward over here, and you could have put out a ward over here. See, look, Evelynn doing a red buff first. Oh my. Alright. So after I did that, I probably would have looked to get Herald. But I would have needed vision to do this. Because you already have the Diana up here. You know the Cho'Gath is dead. You see the Fizz is on the wave. And now you put this ward down. But now there's no point. Yeah, now there's no point. And remember how I was talking about how I wouldn't be trying to get the Jinx fed because she's probably going to die a lot anyways? Oh, who's predicting the future? It's just not fair, like, to play a champion like Jinx and have no peel, and like play against three assassins. There's not a whole lot you can do. And look, you're not clearing optimally and you lose another buff. This is a serious example of why you need to be clearing optimally. The sacrifice to get top turret, I would definitely trade blue buff for top turret, but again, you recalled instead of clearing, and that's not something you should always be trying to do. If you have a very important buy, you recall. Otherwise, you're giving up pressure and you're giving up more gold that you could be having. Like, you were not low. You had no reason to really recall there. Look at your health pool. You had full health and half mana. And these these are not necessarily important items. Phantom Dancer is a good item, but it's not an important item. Your completed jungle item is important, but like, I think you already had that. I'm not going to actually rewind and check. And then you're responding to this way late. Um, so yeah, I'm not gonna talk about that. I'll just turn on your vision again though. Dragon's not important. Do you know what you could be doing right now? Turret, turret, turret. You see that their support's fucking mid lane for some reason. And you have three people, which, by the way, this is your top laner, not your AD carry. Bottom, turrets. It's not important at all. Now, what do you do after that pick? Do you push the wave all the way in? That wouldn't be bad. Do you get this kill too? You really don't know your damage or other characters' damage to you. You got to learn these matchups. If you main Yi, which I saw you had a shitload of games on Yi, you need to start knowing your damage. Um, I don't have a really good tip other than practice and be like cognizant of it while you're practicing. But you know what you could be doing right now? Here's a hint. It's a turret. Do you see how the Diana can attack this turret? Do you see that she could even probably go for this dive? And you know what? You know what? If you're putting pressure here, you're getting this turret. Because one of the ways that you can help your team get an objective is by pressuring another objective. One of the ways you can defend objectives is by pressuring another objective. Pressure is incredibly important, and whenever you back off to farm, you are denying your team valuable pressure. And not only are you denying your team valuable pressure, you're denying your team basically the win. Because, as I said, row of turrets and the Nexus. And, of course, as I also mentioned, gold now is a lot more valuable than gold later. If you get this turret now, it's 150 gold for everyone. If you get this blue buff, it's like 80 gold for you. Math. And you got a kill, so I guess it was a little more than 80 gold for you. And right here, place down a ward, which you already have. Slap this turret. They're going to have to rotate to you, and they've already used some ults. Hopefully Diana's calling them, but they've already used the Fizz ult, which, if they don't have the Fizz ult, do you know what cooldown they have for you? A charm. That's it. You can dodge that. You can fuck them up. You can kill them. Because you're... And if the Cho'Gath responds, which he very well might be, you just would walk away. But instead you're just sitting here. You need to hit the turret. This is not what you do as a Master Yi. Master Yi... You pick Master Yi for split push and turrets. Not necessarily you should only focus on split push because, as I said, win conditions change. But if you're looking to do something like this, you're playing the wrong champion. Master Yi is not good at this. You'd want to play something like Evelynn or something like Elise or something like fucking Xin Zhao, Shyvana. Shyvana is actually also kind of split push. But you're so much more useful on this turret because now you know what? You know what? This damage, you probably would have been able to take this turret and then turn on these kills in that short window of time. And you don't know your champion's damage because for some reason you decided to dive for that. And do you know how I was saying Herald is almost a guaranteed turret if you use it at the right time? A Cho'Gath just used it and managed to get a turret that was like fucking full health by himself. So, see, this is an example of using it at the right time. And this is unfortunate. You are. Most people, honestly, that I review, yeah, it's a common thing that people play this game like a team deathmatch. And, you know, of course, camping and stuff like that. In the Call of Duty sense, not in the League of Legends sense. You didn't camp anyone this game, but you camped. uh, yeah, you need to be clearing more optimally. You need to know your champion's damage. You need to focus a lot more on turrets. And you need to stay a lot longer after you get a kill. You seem to immediately want to recall. As soon as you get probably 1,000 gold, you want to recall. That's not how you should do it. You do need to eventually recall to use your lead. Very, very true, yes. But if there's something else more important for you to be doing, then what do you need an item spike for at that instant? Like, you could get your buffs, or you could get a turret, or something else. There's no fucking reason to recall. You really do need to work on your recall timers. That is probably the most important thing, honestly. And you still have not put in any respect towards all of their magic damage and assassin potential. You've gotten a Phantom Dancer, and if you had gotten a Maw at this point of the game, or a Hex Drinker, right, with that 1,300 gold, you almost guarantee that you'll survive any of their assassins. You pretty much guarantee it. Because for some reason, Ahri built even more magic damage. She built a Static Shiv. And you are just diving in and fighting. You team deathmatch. If you're doing it like that, no. Because you know it's worth it? Objectives. Objectives. And if you don't get anything out of it, which now you can't because these guys just recalled. Common problem, by the way. And now there's no pressure for her to keep pushing. Yes. If you wanted to push this wave, they had two choices then. Send people bottom or send people top. And if they send people top, if you set up correctly, you can just walk away. If they send people bottom, she can just walk away if she set up correctly. And otherwise, if they make the wrong decision, which happens enough of the time, and by the way, since you're willing to dive people for these kills, you could probably kill half their team in a 1v1 situation. So if they sent the wrong person to try and stop you, dive them, kill them, don't recall, take the turret. But yeah, it's never worth it unless you can guarantee you will get something afterwards. And as the jungler, oftentimes it's not worth it because you don't have smite to get the objective afterwards. Baron's worth, I forgot what point value I gave it, like 20 points, something like that. But this is a really important objective. And if you die and you kill the Zed and the Ahri, your team really shouldn't do this. Because their team has 2 smites left and you don't have any smite. So then your team is all of a sudden forced to sit on a turret, and then maybe the Cho'Gath can wave clear in this magical universe. But it's not something you should be trying to do. You can always set up a fight where you have an advantage if you manage your waves. And set up, of course. You need to set up vision. And with the way you've been doing it so far, you really haven't been setting up any useful vision. I have only seen one good ward, and You did end up getting a kill out of it on the Evelynn, but it was risky to stay for here, so that play as a whole I didn't like. Um, Side note, I would keep red buff on Master Yi as well, so if your AD carry is asking for it and it's like a complaint of theirs, you have very solid ground to keep it, as long as they want AFK. Going to this wave is a great idea. You need to make sure you catch it before it crashes. And you see a lot of people are grouping mid. There's no way you're going to be able to stop it. And you go back to jungling. Interesting. Okay, that whole thing was kind of interesting. I would have done two things here. First, I would have pinged the Jinx to stay on this, because you know what they're going to do? They're going to go for Baron. And I don't know how much of this is me cheating. No, those were blue pings. Those were blue pings. But they were probably either going to rotate for Baron after they got those that kill on the super fed Diana, right? Oh, yeah, you're more fed than she is. But they're either going to rotate for Baron, or they're going to stay mid. So, if you had kept Jinx bottom to hit this turret, she'd probably have died for this turret, but that's worth. 1 point for 10 points, worth. It's situation dependent. Because in this situation, they were going to get mid turret. So you deny them a turret by making them come to kill you, and you still get a turret. So they're waiting out a death timer, which if their idea is you don't want to make it so your team can't team fight, you can't team fight now. You can't defend now because your Diana's dead. So how do you respond to this pressure? The best way to respond to pressure is to create pressure yourself. And as Master Yi, that's wave control. But a situation in this game where you can control a wave is where Jinx was. If she had kept pushing this in, that's a guaranteed turret, but of course she probably would have died for it. Which, her score and the way this game is going would not have been a bad idea. And of course, where they were. Their other option was to go to Baron, which I would have, as Yi, dropped a ward over here, like close to the ledge, so that way I could have just walked over this way, right? Drop the ward, go back to this wave, and push out another one. That's going to make this wave crash about here, which is going to make them want to respond to that. I wouldn't push it any further than here. I would just push one more wave. But that's going to move it further away so that if their idea was to rotate to this tower for whatever reason, they couldn't for a very long time. It also gives you valuable setup, which you need to do for Baron. That's one of the two choices that they really had, right? To keep pushing to go for Baron. And if the Jinx had stayed, then kill the Jinx maybe. Another thing, my rule, generally, since the Evelynn's dead, it doesn't matter. But once Baron has spawned, you generally need to stay on this side of the map. You generally need to stay on the upper half of the map. Somehow, you need to stay on the upper half of the map. Because the most important objective in the game at this stage is Baron. Of course, if you can somehow get their Nexus, well, to stay on the correct side of the map, for starters, this wave is now yours. As Master Yi, this wave is yours. And if you had pushed it out, you would have still been up here. And if you had warded correctly, so you have a pink ward, right? As I said, this bush, put your pink ward in. And if you would also put a... not bot. You would never want to show bot at this stage of the game. But clear top or clear mid, pick one of these two, and have yourself set up. An example of setup if you were clearing top, as I said, a ward right here in this bush, catch all mid rotations with this ward, and a ward just in the tri-brush. If you continue pushing, a ward, if you put your pink here, or a ward here, a normal ward here, you're also pretty safe. You have your ult to get away from most of them. And if they're chasing you this far, odds are you'll be able to get something somewhere else. So, you need to generally stay on this side of the map, Raptors, as I said, since Evelyn wasn't up, it's not a bad idea to be over here. It's not terrible. It's fine. It's fine. Completely fine. But it's a concept I wanted to tell you. And if you have a resource in your inventory, it's the same economic thing as I was saying earlier. If you're investing in a pink ward, you need to put it down. Otherwise, it's wasted gold. If you're just saying I had 75 gold and I recalled, well, put that 75 gold down and turn it into 100 gold. Every time it spots someone out and saves a life or set up a play, it pays you dividends. It pays you back. If you never put it down, then you don't have it in your inventory. And then that 75 gold, why don't you just use it for something else? A potion. Whatever, it doesn't matter, but you're not using the ward. And if you have yellow trinket still at this point, which isn't necessarily bad. Yellow trinket on a split pusher is in fact what I would be doing. I would keep yellow trinket. But your team doesn't have any vision control. You have no red trinkets. So your pink ward needs to be on Baron. So that way you can control this area. Yeah, so that's it for my little rant there. Yeah, Dragon's not important. While you're doing Dragon over here, you know what could happen? They could get engaged on mid. They could be doing Baron. Do you know their team was just up here to kill the Vayne? If you think you're sneaking this, you know what they could be sneaking? Yeah, Baron. So it's not good. You don't have any vision. And you die for it. Well, I mean, it turns on them, so that's pretty good. But not what I would have liked. And then Jinx is dead again. Unfortunate game. Ooh. Ooh. Nah, she's dead again. That's just unfortunate. Hopefully they go all the way to the turret. That's fine. Take the turret. Take the turret! Good, okay. Now back off. You know what I'd be doing as Yi right now? I'd be on this wave. If you were on this wave, you could push it all the way up to here, and you could set up yourself for the split push later. 100% because your team was just creating pressure bottom. You know the way you can help your team whenever they're super duper far away from you? Bingo! Creating pressure somewhere else. You know how you can create pressure somewhere else? Well, being on this wave is okay, but realistically, after they kill your team, which they're going to do, they're going to go mid, and then they're going to clear this wave. Right? They're going to clear up to this tower, and they're going to take this tower. But if you're clearing over here, all the way up here, look at this long-ass lane that they either bring everyone up to stop you, or you trade a tier 2 for a tier 2. Because you're not going to defend this by yourself. You're not. It's not going to happen. Unless you're like super fed, which you are, but you have no defensives and you're still going to fucking die. You're trying to clear more. You're like, all right, there's nothing to gank around here. I better be looking for camps to steal. Yeah, and if you're thinking about gold, look at this gold. You know, this is worth way more too. And you know, you put your wards down. These are okay actually. They don't work together though. So your goal right with these two wards is to set up for Baron, right? And that's what these two wards do. That is what these two wards do. Your team's not going to do Baron, not for a while. These wards are going to be dead by then. But their team's all alive. Your team needs control over here. Because they pass these wards once. And then there's somewhere, anywhere over in this vicinity, anywhere in this lane pushing, anywhere in this lane pushing. A ward over here is much more valuable for Baron control. And that's what these two wards are doing. If you're trying to ward for split pushing, which as I said, I liked this idea for setting up for split pushing, but then these two wards say the exact same thing. What's the gank route someone's going to do from mid to top? Well, they're going to walk through here and... Oh! they were spotted by this ward. Or they're going to walk from base through here and, oh, they were spotted by this ward. So what does this one tell you? It doesn't tell you anything. It's a redundant ward. If you needed to ward another location, I would have warded here. So then the only gank path that they had for you, right, was sneaking like this. No one's going to do that. Trust me, no one's going to do that. If you had warded right here, you'd catch every gank path on you. It's not going to be a redundant ward because, you know, this ward, as I said, catches this path. A ward over here catches this path, sets up for Baron still. This is not a good ward, and I'm trying to emphasize the importance of where you could be putting it. You need to start thinking about what you're trying to set up for and the different ways you can get there. So far, you have your clearing, you don't know your damage, you have your recall timers, valuing turrets more, valuing dragons less, and your build is questionable in a game like this. I really do not like how you are completely disrespecting them with no defensives at all. A Maw would have definitely been something you had to build this game. And then the final thing is your resource management whenever it comes to wards is very poor. And that includes this pink ward that you still haven't dropped. So we'll see if there's anything else so far. But, oh yeah. One more thing. The wave management. You don't have any wave management. And as a champion like Master Yi, that's incredibly important. This is, yeah, I don't know what you're doing. You saw them. If you had a defensive item, you could have turned on that. And if you had vision, you would have known not to take that. Yep, that's exactly what I would do. Ooh, and another one bites the dust. But for an example of creating pressure somewhere else as a way to defend. The Vayne dying up here, I wouldn't necessarily say it was worth it, but it brought two people up top instead of taking this extra turret. Do you see how close this one was to dead? An extra person here, Fizz, would have guaranteed this turret. And if this turret was dead, there's a chance they could have gotten the inhib. Chance. I really don't think they would have, but chance. And if you think dragons are worth taking for the potential to get an objective, then a play like that denies a dragon, denies a tower, denies an inhib. It denies an objective. That's creating pressure somewhere else. Ideally, you don't die for it. If you have correct setup, you won't die for it. But that's what this kind of play can do. It can save turrets, and it can make sure you get objectives. It can set up for smart fights. You're on the wrong side of the map, totally wrong side of the map. Never be bottom when Baron's up. I'm just watching the minimap, and I saw you down there. Team fight over here is fine. You're in a pretty good position. I would have tried to drop a ward in the middle of that fight in this bush just to make sure they couldn't go over the wall. But I guess I should look a little bit more into the fight since it went so bad. Okay. I'm sure you know about Master Yi's Q mechanic. It lets you dodge things, and it lets you damage multiple people, right? You know a team fight is coming up here, because you see like there's at least like 3 of them, right? You see at least 3 of them. You saw the Zed, you saw the Cho'Gath, and you see the Fizz whenever you get up here. And you try, and you see the Ahri. You start this fight by trying to burst him with your Q or gap close with your Q. 2 things wrong with that. 1, you just used pretty much your only defensive ability to engage and you didn't build any defensive items. And 2, you engaged as a squishy champion. You don't want to do that whenever you know their entire team is here. You just saw 4 people, and you use your one defensive ability to put yourself in the middle of them. And if you said that they always had some cooldowns for you, well, if you go in first, they're going to have cooldowns for you, man. It's the way the game works. And now you have to run away, and by the time you come back in, Cho'Gath is here, and look at the positioning for this fight. Okay. So far, looks like your team isn't entirely here, but you know, you're doing pretty well. You're strong. You think you should be fighting this. Well, if your entire team isn't here and you use your one defensive ability, means you're going to get hit by everything. And you're in the middle of their team. You could have used your Q to dodge the Fizz ultimate. You could have used your Q to dodge at least half of that damage. And then the rest is just kind of AD carry positioning mistakes, which, you know, blessing and a curse, because it means theirs does it too. And then they go get Baron, hopefully. Well, I guess they do both. Really weirdly, but I guess they do both. No, they only got the Inhib? I would have started with Baron. Because your team, as soon as you all respawn, I'd be rushing Baron. And that's because you just lost your Inhib. They were low. They wanted to shop. Go do Baron. This is your one chance to do it. You have a lot of damage. You could probably chunk this thing real quick. Okay, and why did you buy Boots of Swiftness in a game that has Charm, Silence, Charm, and 1 slow? They have 1 slow. Dude, there's no reason to be building Boots of Swiftness. You should have gone Merc Treads or Tabi or whatever. And where did you even put that pink ward? Maybe you sold it? Did you sell your pink ward? Holy crap, don't have sold your pink ward. No, okay. Maybe not. Where'd you put it down? Oh, well, you put it down a while ago, I guess. You still have it here. Oh, no, you did sell it. My dude. You sold your pink ward on me. Come on. You kept it all game to sell it. Ugh. All right. Well, I think that I've highlighted a lot of the problems. At this point in the game, since they have Baron, they should be able to close it out pretty easily. The only team fights you can really be looking for are ones you create a numbers advantage, because you saw how your team fight kind of worked out. They have a lot of assassins to get on your carries, and since you built really, really squishy, you count as a carry that they're going to burst down. So to highlight once more, you're clear, your recall timers, you need to get towers, you need to focus less on dragons, you need to know your damage more, you need to make sure whenever you're invading, your team can come to help you, and their team cannot come for whatever reason. You need to make sure you're playing towards the side of the map with Baron. You need to work with wave management a lot better. You need to, work on your build. Core to Master Yi. They're core to Master Yi. You're okay. So recall timers. Your idea with recalls is whenever you have a huge power spike or an item, and the alternative is what can you get if you stay? Always the question you need to be asking is what can you get? Because a better item, right? It means you can get more farm later or maybe win a duel later or something like that, right? That's what an item does. But if you can get an objective, it's better than the potential to get an objective. Always be thinking about what you can get now. And think about what the enemy team is trying to do. So, for example, doing your blue buff after that to clear down, to deny any chance of them counter jungling you, you were full health. You had no reason to recall, and you did not have a super important item to get. Because that power spike at that point in time wasn't going to do anything for you, because you should not have been looking for a fight until much later. And at that state point in the game, whenever you recalled up here after taking this tower at this point, right? You walked bottom, they walked away because they didn't want the fight, and you started clearing up. Or is that what happened? I think that's what happened. And your buff was gone. So you didn't fight anyone, meaning you didn't need that extra item, which means that you should have just been clearing. You should have been taking towers. Whatever you could have been doing, you had no reason to recall. Recalling is how you, as a... It is. It certainly is a default move. It's not a good move. Every kill you get is only the equivalent of warding. If you see everyone in bronze not warding, then that shows you how important a fucking kill is. It doesn't mean shit, because look, you had 12 kills this game, and I think you still lost it. Did you lose this game? I think you lost this game. Judging by the way it's going, you lost this game. That's how valuable kills are. They don't mean shit if you pick a smart fight. And wards help you make smart fights. Okay, so when to recall? It's tricky because it's situation dependent. That's why I'm pointing at a couple of the examples that happen this game. But your mentality to decide whether or not you should recall is, what can I get? And if you can get something by staying, odds are you should stay. I have had many times when I played like Elise jungle that I recall with 3k. And that's just because I, get a kill top lane and I don't recall. I walk for a kill mid lane and I don't recall, and I walk and I get a kill bot lane, and then I don't recall, and I clear my red buff which is spawned, and I clear my raptors, and I clear my wolves and blue buff, and I kill the jungler that invaded me, and then I recall. Something like that. It's not something that happens every game, of course. I don't try and just go from one gank to another gank. But if I see that I can get something, which is what you're always looking for, you don't recall. You get something. And if it's the potential to get something, that's the same thing as shopping. Shopping is the potential to get something later. Try something out then. Yeah. Yeah. Especially since, like, that one time you were here, you recalled, and then you started wolves. Like, that was the least optimal clear path you could have chosen. All right. Well, I think that's all I've really got for you here. Yeah, what's up? Similar to Yi? Shyvana. 100% Shyvana. Shyvana has a lot more of a focus on dragons, though, because it gives her armor and magic resist buffs. But Shyvana is all about split pushing, and she has an insane amount of damage in a 1v1 situation. Her ultimate is like AoE burst blah of like damage, and you can build her like off tank, which honestly you should have done with Yi this game. So build for Shyvana is like the new Sated Devourer thing, whatever that is, the attack speed jungle item. The a frozen mallet, and already you can stick to everyone and just melt them. From there, you go like either Black Cleaver if your team needs one, or you can go something like Thornmail if their AD is fed, whatever it is, but you build her off tank, and you'll be shocked how much damage she does. And then, of course, it's about wave management. Don't, yeah, you don't. In a game like this, that's a terrible idea. If they have just a bunch of AD carries, yeah, go for it. Honestly, go for it. But they have assassins that are going to be on you. You can't do that. And again, that's something that's like a win condition acknowledgement. You're not acknowledging their win condition at all. And it's something you should think of. Very critical that you think of it. Anything else? Yeah, I did. I'll upload it and I'll send you the link if you need it. All right. You know, the best part about being a Phil main is you play more the map than any champion. So I have something useful for every role, even though I honestly int whenever I play top lane. I am garbage at top lane. But it's easy to still give people advice because you're all trying to do the same thing, and it's get to this. So once you start playing towards objectives, you will notice incredible gains. Trust me. That is the easiest thing to adapt to once you start focusing objectives because no one does. You see how much everyone is focusing a team deathmatch in this? Once you start focusing objectives, you get everyone gold, you get everyone XP, which is an investment in your team, which lets them play their team deathmatch while you win the game. All right, that's it. Well, I'm gonna stop the sharing screens and stop my